with Aaron Cow.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Cow with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
Good Thursday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the next hour. We're going to get into Bedlam. We're going to get into college football in the middle of the show and the end of the show. Man, the Michigan situation continues to intrigue me as far as what might happen. I think it's pretty obvious what was happening, and that was they were cheating their tails off. Now there's a report from Pete Thamel this morning that all of the coaches and ADs have had a teleconference with Tony Batiti, who is the brand new Big Ten commissioner, last night, and the pressure is mounting for him to do something about this. What could that be? We can talk about that. We can talk Bedlam. Keys for Saturday's games. How long is it going to be until we see another regular season Bedlam? There's tons of memories of this game, and here's my question. 15, 20 years worth of these-ish? Has there been another game that's delivered the way that Bedlam has consistently delivered exciting, down-to-the-wire, fantastic games, entertaining games? I don't know if there's been a more entertaining series than Bedlam has been for the last 15 or 20 years. Talk that. Thunder blow a massive lead to the Pelicans last night on their national TV debut. It was funny to watch Twitter after the first quarter. It was, national people. This team is so fun. I love them. And then the crickets after that as they blew the lead. Texas Rangers, Jared's Texas Rangers are world champions. Bunch of numbers out of this thing. Like firsts. A lot of firsts from this. And also, Bob Knight passed away yesterday as well. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. It's 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about any of those things. Whatever else might be on your mind, feel free to chime right in at 225-9698. If you're going to be outside, the listening area, a couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on, log on to kadsam.com or download the app. The app's got it all. Radio, it's got the Penny News. You can check out the Penny News online, thepennynews.com, or go pick up a free copy of this week's brand new edition of the Penny News out at your favorite local newsstand. Big Elk and Paragon TV, football tomorrow, basketball tomorrow on Paragon TV with the small school basketball cranking up for the season openers. And then the Skinny on Sports podcast. If you miss the show, you can find it anywhere podcasts drop. How are you today, Jared? I'm sure wonderful.
I'm doing good.
You're already getting a text. You think Atha is happy today on the text line.
It was one of those when you wake up and you tell yourself, that wasn't a dream. That really happened. It was awesome. I celebrated into the night.
It's funny you said that wasn't a dream because you sent me the final call from Eric Nadel, and he actually references that. Here it comes.
Spores kicks and fires. He struck him out looking. It's over. It's over. The Rangers have won the World Series. Ranger fans, you're not dreaming. The Rangers are the World Series champions. After 52 years in Texas, 63 years of the franchise. The wait is over. And the celebration has begun.
How long do you think that – how pre-scripted do you think in his mind that was?
I don't know. I think he, as a broadcaster, you're always thinking, well, what if this happens? What would you say? And sometimes it just comes naturally. It just, come on. We've done this long enough. I've called state championship games, and For instance, I mean, we're talking baseball when Canute won it back in 2020, in the fall of 2020, and I made that call, and I wasn't sitting there thinking, what am I going to say? I was sitting there thinking, get 3 outs.
Well, it's 1-0.
It was 1-0. Let's get 3 outs, boys, and then it just I don't think he sat there and wrote a script the night before. I think it just came naturally.
No, but the difference is I do think he had half an inning to think about it after the Rangers put the 4 up at the top of the ninth.
Yes.
As opposed to just watching and going, uh-oh. You know, or is this game, I mean, one swing there in the 8th inning could have totally changed it.
Yeah.
But then by the time it gets to the bottom of the ninth, you have that, you know, I think there is a time of reflection. I mean, there's no, I mean, it just comes out. Even if you think about it a lot of times, it doesn't matter. You don't say what you, unless you literally had a script written down with ready to read, which nobody's going to do because you don't know how games are going.
Right.
You know, I mean, people always make fun of Jim Nantz for like the winning putt at the Masters call and how much that he scripts that. He claims he doesn't. And maybe he's just that hokey and that good at it, you know, for that event. But his always sure sound like, okay, he's thought about this a little bit.
Right, and I think he has bullet points of the who they think's going to, you know, of the going into Sunday. It's like, okay, this guy's from this town. He's only been a pro for this long, and then all that. And I think he has puzzle pieces that he puts together when he makes that call.
Yeah, I think he does it on the fly, but there's some research anyhow. So last night's game, I mean, it just felt like they're at the first 5 innings. It was inevitable that the Diamondbacks were going to score a run. And Eovaldi just kept on making the biggest pitches of the game when he absolutely had to make them. Wiggled off the hook in all 5 innings in the first 5 with runners in scoring position in every single of the first 5 innings. Meanwhile, on the other side, Gallen was perfect through 5. And it was just like that. But there was that kind of in the back of your mind going, okay, the Diamondbacks can't continue to squander these opportunities because eventually, I mean, it's not like the Rangers are going to get perfect gamed. You didn't think.
Right.
And so eventually, you know, this could come back like, golly, they didn't score in the first. No, they didn't do it in the second. And as those built upon each other, you got the feeling that, man, if I did at least, if the Rangers could figure out a way to get 1 run, that might just be the soul crusher that it takes because of the squandered opportunities of the Diamondbacks in those first 5 innings.
For me, it was just get a hit. You know, because that pressure was mounting and mounting and mounting the later that game went on, and there was a big 0 in the hit column. And just when they finally got that hit, that pressure for me anyways, and you know it's like that in the dugout, like, okay, we're wearing him down. He's wearing out. We got that hit. Now let's build on this.
Well, every one of them said it after the game. Every one of them said when Corey finally got that hit in the 7th inning, it was like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, almost like that moment when Rocky hits Drago, and you realize he's a human and not some sort of computer or something.
Right. Yeah, and then pushing the run across. And I'm with you. I thought that might be enough, and you know, then Rangers had opportunities to. You know, I think they left what inning was it?
There was that inning, 7th inning,
bases loaded.
Well, they had first and third, nobody out.
First and third, no one out. And they couldn't get them across. And then
that was they ended up leaving the bases loaded in that inning.
Yeah, and I thought, man, and then getting in the pickle with Carter at between third and home.
That was 7th, yes.
I thought that I don't want that to be the memory of the what-if memory.
See, I wondered.
You know.
When it happened, I totally understood why it happened that way. But on that hit by Garver, as it was second, third, nobody out in the 7th, hit up the middle, Carter's on second, I wondered to myself, of course, the way the inning went, it didn't go the way that I'm sure the third base coach was thinking, hey, don't run us out of a big inning here by making the first out at home plate. Mm-hmm. But as Ginkel wiggled off the hook, and then he did it again in the 8th inning. But in that 7th, I wondered, God, is the third base coach sitting there going, I should have sent him. Right. Even though there was nobody out, and I totally understand why he didn't. It was more than the right play. because you don't want to run yourself out of it. By instead of first and third, nobody out, you end up with a runner on first and one out because you got somebody thrown out at home. When all you need is, Young is coming up, and a fly ball is certainly in his repertoire to drive another run in or what have you. But then as the way that inning played out, and he ends up getting in the pickle after Young strikes out, then you're thinking, boy, I bet he wishes he'd have sent him, right? Just to make Thomas make a play. But you're right, it was amazing how that game flipped, because for the first 6 innings, really the first 5 innings, every stitch of pressure was on Texas. They were the ones that had all the pressure on them. And Evaldi made the pitches. The guys behind him made the plays to keep it at a 0-0 game. Then all of a sudden in the 7th, it was like, bam, Arizona finally has pressure. And, as great as Gallen was, and he was awesome, that's all it took. It was. I mean, when it got to be 1-0, we knew we were going to have the Araldis experience at some point, but it seemed like that one run was just a crusher to Arizona. Like they even thought to themselves, "Damn, that was our chance. We had our chance, and now we're not going to win this game," because there's that stat out there, and it remained. Neither of those teams lost when they scored the first run in the entirety of the postseason.
Crazy. Yeah. I go back to 11 when they're one strike away from winning, and then one lazy line drive catch from winning. And I hate to pick the scab for Ranger fans because it's called the Nelly Cruz curse, right there off his glove. I don't say this to be mean to Arizona, but it was nice to see it happen to someone else when that ball went past the center fielder. Then I dropped to my knees knowing we won. That's it. That they've had that moment. It's finally the tides have turned finally. So crazy turnaround for the Texas Rangers, and I'm still soaking it in. It's still kind of like, did that just happen? Kind of mentality for me right now.
Yeah, so
it'll sink in. And I told my girls, I said, all I want for Christmas is World Series stuff. Yeah. That's all I want. That's all I want.
We were sitting there watching, and it's the very first commercial is all the Texas Rangers World Series gear. Wyatt was like, "Golly, I can't believe that they have that all ready to go." I said, "Here's another deal, buddy. If you lived in like Uganda, you don't have internet, you're going to be disappointed one of these days if you ever get it that the Diamondbacks weren't the 2023 World Series champs, because you're about to get a bunch of that gear floating around that's not going to be worth anything to buy."
My kid too. Katie was looking at me like, how did they do it? So it's just how it works.
It's already there.
There it is, and that's what I told her. That's what I want for Christmas.
Yeah. All right, so there's some amazing numbers out of this. So Texas is the third team, and this was going to be the case no matter who won this World Series. We talked about it when Arizona got there to join Texas, that this was going to be the third time in Major League Baseball history that a team was going to win a World Series within 2 years of a 100-loss season. Both teams 2 years ago lost 100 at least. And so that Texas becomes the third team to do that, along with the 1969 Mets and the 1914 Braves. They were 68-94 a year ago, Texas was. That's the worst record in the history of baseball a year prior to winning a World Series. The 11-game road winning streak continues a record. It was already a record at 10. Bruce Bochy is now the 6th manager to win at least 4 World Series, and he's the only one to do it with multiple organizations. He's also this was an interesting one. I'm kind of surprised this is a thing, but shouldn't be, I guess. He's the first manager ever to win the World Series for and against the same franchise. No one had ever done that until last night. Obviously, the 2010 Giants beat the Rangers in the World Series. Bochy was the manager in San Francisco. Now he turns around and wins one with the Rangers. Nobody had ever done that. Corey Seager, 4th person to win multiple World Series MVPs. That award started in 1955, so I'm sure there would have been, Babe Ruth winning, but it didn't start till 1955. Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, and Reggie Jackson, the others. And then he and Reggie are the only to do it with multiple teams. Incredible numbers. And then this has to be. I didn't see that this was a record, but I'm going to go ahead and fire it out there that it is. Will Smith, the reliever for the Rangers, has now won 3 straight World Series with 3 different teams.
3 straight?
He's won 3. He's been on 3 straight World Series winning teams. And they've all been different. 3 in a row.
That's crazy.
3 different. So it went, what, Braves, Astros, and now Rangers. That has to be a record.
So he's going to be highly sought after in the offseason by anybody that wants to win a World Series. That's crazy. I had this thought this morning, and I wonder what this title does for the Rangers' chance of, Shohei Ohtani. Saw the odds of next year, and they're like 3rd or 4th in odds to win it next year. Behind, I think Braves were the favorite. They're actually tied with Houston. But it had a little caveat in there. It said this could all change depending on where Ohtani could go. And then I had that thought, well, does this make them a contender in the Ohtani race? Does this say, can they go, we win titles here, Ohtani? Come on. Or even in the market. That's all up in the air. I think the favorite is the Dodgers, but makes you wonder. And it makes you wonder who else. Not just Ohtani, but who else. So the offseason, winter meetings, everything is going to be really interesting for Arlington, and see if they can keep this ride of momentum going in a positive way. You know why they won, right? Why? You know why Texas won this World Series? I don't know. Tell me why. There's an obvious answer. There's one Major League Baseball franchise this season that did not host a Pride Night. I saw that someone tweeted that. One Major League organization that didn't host Pride Night, and that organization, the Texas Rangers. I saw that. They did not bend the knee to the crazies, and they were rewarded handsomely for the first time in their history. They win the World Series. No, I can tell you this, though, and believe me, I would know. They do still serve Bud Light in the stadium, so you can't blame Bud Light for if they were lost. So, anyways, no. Well, all I saw was Budweiser. I saw a picture of the kind of the leftovers at the clubhouse. Oh, there was nothing left over. There was Budweiser crushed. Yeah, man, that was awesome watching the post-game stuff. That was really cool. Really cool. Bochy, you think he'd win? He wins these a lot now. He's just a regular at winning these world titles. You think he'd invest in some goggles when he goes into the locker room? He's like the only one who doesn't have goggles, and he's the one guy they're all spraying. Yeah, he's tough. He's got 2 fake hips and a fake knee. He's not worried about some eyes. He'll be all right. I think, wasn't he the old Scrap Iron? Was that his nickname? I don't know. Seemed like maybe that was his nickname that was out there before. Okay, so we've got some tickets to give away. If anybody wants to go to JC Cowboys Saturday night in Weatherford. Oh, yeah, who's going to be there? Josh Ward and Braxton Keith. Cool. They put on good shows. Phil Garner. Yeah, Phil Garner was Scrap Iron. That's right. So Josh Ward and Braxton Keith Saturday night. Now, I have 2 separate questions. I've got a baseball question, and I've got a college football question, both of which have 5 answers. Okay. So which one do you think we ought to go with? Should we go with baseball because of the Rangers winning the title last night? Yeah, in honor of the. Okay, and here's the deal: they came off of this list last night. So going into last night, there were 6 franchises in Major League Baseball history that had not won a world title. Rangers come off that list, leaving 5. Tell me who the 5 organizations are that have never won the World Series, and you will get to go for free to Josh Ward and Braxton Keith at JC Cowboys. 225-9698. Text us in your answers. Let's see if anybody can come up with the 5. I thought of 4. And then they even flashed that up last night during the broadcast. I can't remember who it was, though.
All right. 225-9698. 5 organizations in Major League Baseball that have not won a World Series title now that the Rangers have. We have a winner. Dakota Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I ask, what are the 5 major league organizations that have not won a world title? And the answer is the Seattle Mariners, San Diego Padres, the Colorado Rockies, the Tampa Rays, and unfortunately, my Milwaukee Brewers.
Based on the longevity of these teams, like I don't know these, and they flashed that up there too when they were established. Some of those like Padres, Mariners, I'm surprised they haven't won one yet.
Brewers,
huh?
The Brewers
too.
They've got to be the oldest.
Rockies, they came around the 90s, didn't they?
Yeah, Rockies and Rays were at the same time, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But those teams that we just mentioned, like Mariners, I can remember some really good Mariners teams.
Well, yeah, in the 90s.
And it just blows. Yeah.
Let's see.
You'd think eventually they'd break through.
Mariners are the 5 years apart. That's right. It was Marlins and Rockies at the same time.
Oh, okay.
The Mariners have never even been to the World Series. Everybody else has.
Yeah.
I don't think the Mariners have ever even made one. Closest let's see, in 1995, they were in the American League Championship Series, lost to the Indians, who then lost to the Braves. For the Braves' only title in that giant long run of
really good team.
Oh my gosh. Padres were in the series against the Yankees, in 98? Got pretty well destroyed. The Rockies were in the World Series against Boston. What is that, 2007?
Expos don't count.
Expos have made the World Series. They're the Washington Nationals. They've won one.
They won one.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where they went, so that has to count. I mean, they didn't actually as the Expos.
But then that goes into the question of, do you count it because, like, for example, if the Thunder win a title, is Seattle going to be going, well, that's a Seattle Thunder thing, or a Supersonics Thunder. Because Oklahoma City certainly isn't claiming the Supersonics title.
No, and I think there was...
but they did say Seattle hold on to their...
That's it. So I wonder if Montreal still has the...
That's what I'm asking. I wonder
if they kept hold of it.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've got another trivia question as we head into college football. There are now 5 teams after Kansas. So Kansas had never been ranked in a college football playoff poll ever since it started. There's now 5 teams left on that list that have never been ranked.
Only 5?
There's only 5.
Like
Power 5.
Power 5? Okay.
Yeah, obviously Power 5s.
Okay.
Yeah, only 5 Power 5 teams have never been ranked in the college football playoff poll. The answer's on my desk, so I have to go get it when we take another break. But I do have them written down. I can think of most of them in my head, which is pretty wild to think that there's still 5 out there that haven't, but there are. So that's your next question out there. 225-9698. Give me the 5 teams in the Power 5 that have yet to be ranked in the college football playoff poll after Kansas made it this week. All right,
give me a minute? I think I can.
Well, you get all the way until the start of the next segment when I go get the answer off my desk.
Right.
I forgot to write it down. What do you think is going to happen in Michigan?
Man, a lot of pressure that something should happen, right? You mentioned the teleconference, I guess, or Zoom call or whatever. A lot of media pressure too. Feinbaum kind of went off on him, on not just Harbaugh, but on the Big Ten for not doing anything yet.
So here's my question about that. All of a sudden yesterday, I mean, this story broke, 2 weeks ago-ish? Something like that. And then all of a sudden yesterday, after the first rankings were revealed, like every single show on ESPN started going after Michigan. Do you think that they finally realized, hey, you know what? Fox has the Big Ten, not us. You know what I'm saying? It was amazing. It's like a company-wide email went out in ESPN properties and went, it's time to start bashing Michigan and trying to get something done here because we don't have them anymore. It was so weird how it reminded you of like politics. How they, some organization runs a poll and they see they see the results across the nation of what people think about it, and then one side or the other starts parroting those lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of with ESPN. Is like they finally they realized, wait a minute, we don't have them.
Right. We don't have to shoot ourselves in the foot here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is what the problem is with the Big Ten front office is they don't either. I think they're very reluctant to do something because it could cost them money. Right?
For sure.
If you're taking out, a lot of people think Michigan is better than Ohio State, so they still got to play, but it could be their only shot this season of getting a team into the playoff. But if they go and say, well, we got to vacate those wins, or we got to bar you from the Big Ten championship game, and that could cost them a lot of money, the conference itself. So this new commissioner, he's kind of in a tough spot. But but it sounds like the other coaches, they don't care. They don't care about any of that. They want harsh punishment.
And that's always been, I think Bill got the right answer on the text line with the 5 teams that haven't been ranked. I'm pretty sure that's right.
I'd have to look.
There's one that I'm not 100% sure. The first 4.
Well, I think everybody would have said Vanderbilt first. So
yeah, the first.
That's the easy.
I know the first.
There's your
4,
first clue.
I know the first 4 are right. This was always going to be the remedy to this problem if it happened this season, because of with the glacial speed at which the NCAA moves. That the NCAA, in my mind, was never an answer to this problem, because they just don't do things that fast. As far as this season and punishing Michigan in some way that might affect their national title hopes, might affect the employment of Jim Harbaugh. It was always, in my mind, going to have to come from the Big 12 or the Big Ten. And while I agree 100% about the Big Ten brass thinking Michigan is our meal ticket because they're our best team, and they're our way to enhance the dollars coming back from the playoff. Are those dollars high enough to alienate the 13 other teams in your conference, which is just about to grow by, 4?
Yeah.
Next year. So now you're talking about 17 versus 1.
How does it refresh me? I don't know. I don't even have a memory of this. How does a conference hire their commissioner?
Is
it the presidents who kind of act like a board?
President/chancellor, whatever they call that person.
Yeah, and they
yeah. That's how I think it happens.
Could there be pressure there where they come in and go, listen, bud, do your job or we'll find someone else who can?
Yes. And that's where it comes down to 13 versus 1 or net 17 versus 1 moving forward. And that what that is, I don't know. We were talking with Coach Maynard after our stuff yesterday, and he asked, has anything happened? And not yet. And how does that affect the college football playoff? So, what is this, year 10? Yeah, 2014, and this is 2023. So year 10 now of the college football playoff. What is the one constant talking point we've heard in those 10 years from the committee?
Quality wins.
Conference championships matter.
Yeah.
And so if you're the Big Ten, you're looking at it like this. maybe you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. And that is you bar Michigan from playing for your conference championship. But the problem is Michigan is your undefeated team. Say they beat Penn State, say they beat Ohio State. And so now you're thrown you're thrown into the same conundrum that a Big 12 will be, best case scenario now. Maybe a Pac-12 will be. But the caveat in that is, if let's just say it's OU and Texas because they are the two highest ranked teams in the college football playoff rankings right this week. It could change next week, whatever. But right now, let's say those two play. Whoever wins is now a one-loss Big 12 champion with a win over a top 10 team. And if it's Oklahoma, 2 of them over that same team. Then you go to, let's say Oregon beats Washington in an undefeated Washington in the Pac-12 title game. The wins that Oregon would have stacked up. And then you compare, say Ohio State beats Penn State. Well, they can't. They have to beat Iowa or whoever that is. When you start comparing those wins and those resumes for the conference champs, there's going to be that hanging out there for the committee. Well, they didn't even beat the best team in their league. So does that give the committee is the committee tied at that point? The Big 12 or the Big 10 champ doesn't compare with the others quite like it would have if it was Michigan, undefeated, obviously. But then you've also got this other team hanging out there that didn't win their conference title that hasn't lost. You know, what do you do?
What do you do with them?
That might be the only way the Big Ten can't make the playoff.
Right.
And so, but on the other hand, could the committee would they take a non-champion undefeated Michigan? Would that be an option when it comes down to it?
So then I go back into
that's where your Big Ten has their cake and eat it too. They get rid of Michigan for the title in the conference, but then they also have them available to be selected for the playoff.
I go back now. This is still going to be a thing. I think for me is that committee. Eventually, it's going to come up, and they're going to start saying, "Listen, we got to consider the fact that there's some major allegations about them cheating and sign stealing. We got to consider that when we're picking what to do with these teams and what to do with Michigan." You know what I mean? Well, I don't think that was a consideration this first go-round, but eventually that is going to creep into that room. Someone's going to stand up and say, "Listen, I don't want to put them in the top 4 because of Harbaugh's cheating allegations. I don't care if they're undefeated. I don't care about any of that." I can see that conversation is going to be had. But I see what you're saying with the Big Ten. I mean, that they could be like, "Hey, we got an opportunity to get 2 in. Let's bar them from that they're going to go undefeated. Let's keep them out of the championship game, and we got an opportunity to get Ohio State and Michigan in."
Well, gosh, at this point, you think with what we're hearing from last night and the outrage from all the other members of the Big Ten, coaches, ADs included, at this point you would think they have to do something to them. Now, what that something is, I don't know. But looking at the committee, Jim Grobe is a former coach. Chris Ault is a former coach. Chris Ault coached at Nevada. Jim Grobe was at Wake Forest and some others. I guess if I'm one of those committee members, Will Shields is a player. Don't you stand up when Michigan, when the talk of Michigan comes about? Don't you stand up and look at those guys, those coaches, and go, "Okay, you guys are the ones that did this for a living. How much of an advantage was this, or could this potentially have been?" And from the coaches that you hear from, Bob Stoops was out there on these airwaves a week ago Friday talking about how huge an advantage it would be. You're starting to see some coaches anonymously, and especially defensive coaches, anonymously around the country and around that conference going, well, yeah, it makes a difference if you know what they're doing. For our defense, for sure.
It's like playing cards and someone's holding them backwards.
Yeah, they know.
You
You
know.
already know the play.
Oh, okay.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is a humongous advantage in my mind. And that's why I don't think Michigan should get to play in the playoff, and I don't think they should get to play for a Big Ten title.
Well, I agree.
I don't think that should happen.
No, I agree.
Now the question, does the committee take that do they look like they're innocent and proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent? Here is my thing about that question right there. Who have you not heard from?
Harbaugh?
If they were innocent, don't you think he'd be out in front of this telling everybody this is what happened and not that?
Right.
Jim McElwain, Central Michigan, you saw that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Him, he couldn't have looked more guilty. But if you're that guy, why would you cover it up? Just say, hey, we knew him on the staff. He was on the staff. We know him. We didn't know what he was doing. And you're done with it. But what's crazy is Jim McElwain has answered more questions about this than Jim Harbaugh has.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you have to look at it as guilty until proven innocent. Because the last thing you want is to have to vacate a national title in the playoff era. The whole point of the playoff is to prove it on the field. And the last thing you want to do is Michigan prove that they're the best team on the field, no matter how they got there. And then the explosiveness of all of this comes out. And then you had to make the decision to, hindsight's not 20/20 in this regard. Hindsight is forward sight right now. So I think the pressure with what we heard from last night, it's mounting massively on the Big Ten to do something. And in my mind, that something is the only thing the Big Ten itself can do is keep Michigan from playing for the Big Ten title.
I've heard the argument of this was before
the playoff is the play. To me, that's separate issue. That those two entities make their choice, not necessarily together.
I've heard this argument before last night's conference call with all coaches outside of Harbaugh, obviously.
I think so, yeah.
And
here's the deal: they set it up.
Yeah.
So they're mad. I mean, that's another layer of upset.
Sometimes I've heard people say, well, this is just this part of the game. Everyone does it. Da 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 da. And if that were the case, all the coaches would be silent. Like, yeah, we're not gonna. This is something that's always been going on everywhere. We're not gonna. But that's not the case when these coaches are putting this together, because if they had some skeletons in their closet, they wouldn't be putting together these conference calls and asking for a Harbaugh's head. So, not everyone's doing this. Clearly, this was centralized at Michigan and Harbaugh. He knows. He knows what's going on.
Of course he did.
He knows what's going on. He's a snake. You've always heard that he's always been a bad dude, just not a good guy. And this just adds fuel to that fire too.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be real interesting.
And I guess, like you said, both of us, we were busy with Halloween and the baseball last Tuesday. And I when does this start to get addressed by the committee in those questions?
It's going to have to. It's going to have that conversation has to be had in that room.
No doubt. On the text line, with the way that the NCAA, the state of the NCAA, are they going to get in some sort of hurry to rule on Michigan?
Well, I thought you thought that they would.
Yeah, that's well.
Is that what you're asking?
Eventually, maybe. But as far as this season and affecting this Michigan
a lot
team,
of it,
The NCAA, that's for down the line.
That's the thing too, is that when this stuff happens, when major punishments are handed out, it's usually in the off season. You don't see it in the middle of the season. I can't think of one where that has happened in the middle of an ongoing season, where you're told, oh, well, those wins don't count, or because there's a lot of investigating to go on and a lot of
that's
looking
what I'm
into.
saying. The pace. I mean,
that's why I think we're seeing this.
How long ago did that Kansas basketball investigation start? 6 years,
right?
With FBI wiretaps as evidence, and it still took 6 years and nothing happened.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the recruiting class in Michigan of like 2027 is going to be the ones affected by any NCAA. But that's why the Big Ten is the one that could dole out the punishment now, if it's going to happen. It would have to come from the conference. So
yeah, I think it's what Dakota's saying on the text line is about. What if it takes so long and then you decide to punish Michigan? You got kids who were never on campus when this was happening, and then they're getting punished. Harbaugh needs to be punished. It has to start with him.
Well, and here's
the thing. It has
to
to be him.
And here's the thing about that, and that's I agree with that 100%. And there's a whole bunch of people that feel like maybe part of some of this Harbaugh isms is because he wants to go back to the NFL as soon as the season is over. And so this is literally the only chance there's a possibility of, at least, the only chance that you can harm Jim Harbaugh is right now. And if that's the case, I think it's going to have to be the Big Ten, because the NCAA doesn't move fast enough.
Right.
And maybe for the later teams, like what we normally see with NCAA stuff, maybe the Big Ten doling out the punishment now alleviates that issue.
Mm-hmm.
And they go back. Let's say it takes, like the KU ones, like 5 or 6 years. Say in 5 years they come out and say Jim Harbaugh can't coach in the NCAA football no more. Well, he doesn't want to anyway. But at least if you do it right now.
Say I want to move to Vegas.
If you do it now, right now, that you actually give punishment to the people that benefited. And I think one thing that's hard to wrap your mind around is a lot of times these things have strictly recruiting implications, right? People are cheating and recruiting. And so, golly, do you hurt the team? Because the coaches were – see, this isn't that. The players are directly benefiting in the win-loss column from what's going on right now.
Yes.
And so that's where I don't have much sympathy for even the players on this team. Oh, you got to just fire Harbaugh. You can't harm the player. Well, this is on-field advantages being gained by what they're doing.
Right.
All right, I mentioned Bedlam. We'll talk all about the game tomorrow. It's coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about the game on Saturday, I should say. What are some of your this game is delivered.
Yeah.
As much or better than any game in college football for the last 15 or 20 years. Exciting, thrilling, entertaining games. Even games that are like 10-point finishes are, I think of 62-52 in 2017. That was as entertaining a game as there ever was. Right. It just happened to be a 10-point game after Sermon ran down the field at the very end. But that was what I'm saying is it's closer than what it looked. So what are some of the memories that you have of the Bedlam series?
Oh, man, there's so many. You mentioned the great games. Going back, how about, was it 01, the upset? Oklahoma State pulled off the upset and they nearly did it in 2000. And then they followed it up. I was actually at that game in Stillwater in 02, where Woods is still open, last I checked, running all over the place. And so there's those upsets. But the redemption, I call it the redemption game, the letter rip game. It wasn't a close game by any means, but it was a statement made by OU. It's like, this is still our state. You've won the last two, but we're going to emphatically beat you this time, and they did. Beating the Les Miles team, and there's a goal line stand in that game. There's a lot of fun stuff in that game. And then the shootouts with the ones that you mentioned, that they just always seem to deliver. And then I always go into the game thinking, oh, this is going to be, when Bedlam for me is when you think there's a clear winner or a clear favorite, and then throw that all out because you still get an exciting game. Because those teams I mentioned in the early 2000s, those were not good Oklahoma State teams, or at least the 2001 wasn't, and the 01 was a little better. But everyone thought Oklahoma was the defending champs; they should win in Norman easily. So sometimes, and then the year, goodness, I'm horrible with years. The Caleb Williams year felt like this is just going to be Oklahoma State's game to lose. They're going to go in there and they're going to win this game, and OU still had a shot to win that game. There's so many memories, even ones when I'm barely walking the Ice Bowl. You always hear about that. What was that 88?
85.
85. So you can look them up. There's a ton of memories.
Yeah, 88.
I can't just narrow them down.
And so we got Brent Parker in 88 dropping the pass in Stillwater.
That's
in the
the
end
one.
zone.
Yeah, that's the from Gundy.
Barry Sanders and
ran,
Mike Gaddis
going
back and forth running it. But it really kind of you got to go do Tradio. But to me, it really starts with Les Miles and being competitive. Here, fine, I got you off. And being competitive against Oklahoma on a year in, year out basis. Bob Simmons at the end of his tenure there, but then Miles went in the first two, and I hadn't seen that from any Oklahoma State coach. And of course, like Jared said, the let her rip game in 2003, and then Gundy Stoops battling each other really kind of elevated it to what it is now. I mean, the iconic moments in the game, Bradford flipping out of bounds in 2008. The play on the sideline, I think it was 2010 up in Stillwater when Broderick Brown tipped it back in for that intercept, a play that you'd never seen before. Obviously, the repunt to Tyreek Hill is one of those moments that you're always going to remember. Hollywood Brown earning that nickname in Stillwater in 2017, and so on and so forth. This game has just been so entertaining and close, and quite frankly, I don't think it hurts that it's been shootouts a bunch of the time because people would rather watch that than 9-6. 62-52 is more entertaining. I was in the stadium. There's another one on the text line. Brennan Clay walking it off in overtime. I was in the stadium for that one in Norman, which was just OU fans at that time, and maybe even still like to act like it's not a rivalry. Boy, it sure seemed like one in the stands that day. Just pandemonium as Blake Bell tied it, and then Brendan Clay ended up winning the game with the run right down the middle of the field against Oklahoma State. And so it delivers. There's no doubt it delivers. From an entertainment standpoint, they're usually close. And quite frankly, and this is just the truth, and if you want to get mad, you can, OSU fans, but there's also a pretty obvious connection to these games. They're close, they're hard fought, they're fun to watch, and at the end of the day, the team in Crimson and Cream makes the plays to win the game that the team that in Orange and Black doesn't. Gundy 3-15 against the Sooners in his 18 years at Oklahoma State. So this game it's pretty intriguing. First time that I can remember, and basically anybody can remember, that you're going to have a player playing for the first time on both sides of it. With Trace Ford, he was on with the guys before us. Gundy was asked about what he's seen from Trace Ford in OU uniform this year. He kind of took a little shot, saying I hadn't noticed him on film. That question was asked to Trace this morning, and he said, I can't wait to play him. I can't wait to see his face. If he hasn't seen me on film yet, I hope he does this weekend. So there's a little bit of that. The poor guy, the offensive lineman Cooper, who came out and tried to take a shot at OU fans, saying that none of them went to school there, and everybody. And then you go back through his Twitter timeline when he was a young kid, and he was one of those OU fans that didn't go there. That hasn't worked out very well for him online. But it's just it doesn't feel as hated as it once did. And like a bunch of stuff in college football, doesn't feel like it's quite as nasty and as hate-filled as it once was. But it's still a really important game for everybody in this state, which are on either side of this rivalry. And it would be hard to stomach, I think, as for the OU fans, with the dominance that the Sooners have displayed in this rivalry throughout the years. Does that all go away and nobody cares that OU dominated the series for the first 100 or whatever years if Oklahoma State has scoreboard when the thing ends? I think it's a pretty interesting thought after the way that OU's dominated for years and years and years in this series. Oklahoma State gets the last laugh on Saturday. We'll talk about it all day tomorrow. High school football tomorrow as well, week 10 of the regular season. Go through some of the district scenarios for the schools in Western Oklahoma. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll be back tomorrow. Skinny on Sports right here on The Sports Animal.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.